TMI. Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker.
Here's another one we waited a long time to talk about.
Get that popcorn going, because we are getting deep into the bucket. We are like head and shoulders just above that popcorn in the bucket today.
Is that your head and shoulders in the bucket?
It is, and so just eat around.
Can you just get out of the
I'm not
bucket?
even using my hands at this point.
Are you eating popcorn like Tom Cruise?
Going back to 1982.
A long time ago.
So nostalgic, this movie. And by design, inhabits a singular place in time.
Yeah.
You know, for us especially, because we saw this thing when it first came out, but it's not a franchise. It just was one and done and just sits there. Perfect.
That's perfect. Perfect in every way. Spielberg even says as much.
Undiluted by a inferior sequel.
Although we're going to get into it, because he said that obviously it made a ton of money, and studio was like, dude, let's make a sequel. And he's like, oh, no, this is the perfect movie.
Well,
we don't need to
I
make
did
a
read
sequel.
that some ideas were thrown around, but they did seem very wonky. You know, even reading them on paper, we're like, hey.
Yeah, apparently there's a 9-page treatment for a sequel.
Yeah.
Written by Melissa Matheson herself. We'll get there though, because you are right. This is even the disc that I watched is the 30th anniversary, and that was like 10 years ago. More than that. Yours
was 2012, right? Your disc.
Yeah. So I have this collector's book. It's got a DVD and a Blu-ray, and there's a nice little booklet on the inside with all these little fun facts and pictures. And I watched all of the extra features. And all they're talking about is the enhancements that they went back into. Spielberg went back and replaced a lot of the facial movements with CG. And, you know, we talk about this famous scene where they took out the shotguns. He had this knee-jerk reaction. And I'm like, I don't want to watch this version. I just want to watch the unedited theatrical. And then 10 minutes in, I'm like, this is it. This is it. It's not. I don't know why they're promoting the enhanced, because it's not on this disc.
Did you have the ET journals on yours where it was like 2 hours of behind the scenes footage, and that's it? Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, and there's a whole Spielberg and ET. There's a lot of stuff on here. There was a 20th anniversary.
I watched the same thing that you did. I must have, because I got mine. Unbelievably, I don't own this, so I got it from the library, and it was a Blu-ray, and it must have been the same edition, because it was, had 2012 all over it.
Right. Most movies that I get invested in, I love to just get into the nitty gritty of the making of it. And, Star Wars or Back to the Future, I know every friggin' camera angle or how things were shot. And to be honest with you, I've never done that with this. I learned things about this movie I never even knew existed.
Yeah. And because it's not part of a franchise or doesn't have a sequel, I think a lot of people, aren't constantly reminded of it. So it's kind of like it's a novelty going back to it, because you don't have to go back and watch it because, the sequel part 5 is coming out. I better revisit the first one.
Let's go back and find out how it all began.
Because of that, I think it's passed down from generation to generation, rather than being upfront in the pop culture today, like Star Wars is or Marvel is, where it's just, even kids and older adults know the characters.
Yes, correct.
Kids today don't necessarily know E.T. unless they are introduced to them.
Well, I was going to say that's exactly what happens is, the parents are like, oh, you need to sit down and watch this movie. Yeah. It changed my life when I was a kid. And I will tell you, this is probably the only movie my mother ever took me and my 2 siblings to the theater and sat in. And my sister's 10 years younger than me, so she was the ripe old age of 4. And this movie traumatized her to the point where she doesn't like talking about it. She doesn't like bringing it up. She, as far as I know, has never shared it with my niece and nephews.
Wow. And
when I told her we were covering this, and I was every intention of telling the story of her just losing her freaking mind at the end of this movie. But I was right there with her. I was 10 years older. I was like 14. Still sobbing. I can watch the last 2 minutes of this movie and sob like a baby.
It's very important to point out just how ingrained this was in 1982 and 1983 in popular culture. This was a huge deal for years and years. This was the biggest moneymaker in the world.
Yeah, this was right up there with Star Wars, where it was still playing in theaters a year later.
Everywhere. There was the merchandising was just all encompassing.
Speaking of merchandising, do you remember the long extended finger that glowed that you could just add to your fingers?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. Well, that sits in that's a little phallic now, but it's like, oh yeah, there you go, kids, go play with this. Look, Mom, I brought this home. Can I borrow that? So, but you're right. I mean, E.T. was everywhere. He did Pepsi, huge promotion. Obviously, Reese's Pieces. How come Coors didn't jump on this bandwagon?
Or I'm hoping that they did phone commercials with E.T.
Oh.
Like reach out and touch someone kind of thing. That would be a missed opportunity. Yeah.
Well, Speak and Spell, even Speak and Spell. There's enough product placement. I think
Speak and Spell was kind of dead by that point, wasn't it?
Well,
that
I
was
think
like
he brought it back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone probably had little Casio computers on their wrists. So, but yeah, this is interesting going back and revisit this because there's a couple scenes that I don't remember. At least
the scenes in the spaceship, I didn't really remember.
Well, the opening scene where you see them out, all the little aliens are collecting plants, and I guess they're like intergalactic botanists. Like these are just scientists, right?
They've probably got like little mason jars with earth.
Yeah, but you're right. So there's that whole opening sequence where you see like all these intergalactic mushrooms and glow in the dark things from other planets that they've collected, and I'm like, I don't remember that at all.
And they're probably like, ooh, that's nice. That'll go for a pretty penny on galactic eBay.
There you go. So these guys, they're just hopping around planets, taking samples. And they're like, by the way, Bob, don't wander too far away.
But Bob does.
Bob does. Bob actually has a name. We just talked about the sequel treatment. Apparently, they divulged what his real name is. I was thinking it was more like a Mortimer.
Eugene.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like Eugene. It's another one, right? But it's like you're just E.T. That's like if I go to another planet and you're like human.
And you don't want to know these things because remember that controversial line in Venom. I'm like the loser on my symbiote planet.
Yeah. Great.
I don't want to think of Venom as a loser.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree he is a loser.
And at some point, we're going to have to, again, I don't think we can ever live this down.
I know exactly where you're going.
Carlo Rambaldi, yeah.
Oh, we maligned you so bad. Apologies.
Whenever I think of him now, I think of him saying that he could make a full-size King Kong running through the forest.
Yeah, sure. Well, after all this, he was like, yeah, but, well, no, that was beforehand. Huh?
That was beforehand.
Yeah. It's like, you stick to something small. But this was like, again, watching these behind the scenes features that I had never seen this character with people inside of it.
No, and it seemed like they were kids, right?
So there's two. So there's two little people, adults, but then there is a 12-year-old boy who was born with no legs, and he does some of the. So they each had like their own special features that they brought to the character when he was inside the suit. And you watch these featurettes, and everybody on the set treated this thing like it was real.
Well, for all intents and purposes, it was. It's
right.
Full body. It's there. This is
also the genius of Spielberg. Like all these sets are built raised so that all these wires and cables you've got 12 people, artisans and technicians behind the scenes controlling all the facial features and the movements. But like the actors never saw that. Like there's that scene where Drew Barrymore literally says, I don't like his feet. That was an ad lib by her because she saw the wires and she didn't like it, and he kept it in the movie.
Did you see in that little behind the scenes thing, Henry Thomas, when they're not filming, is trying to convince her that he's real.
Right.
Like, no, he's real. He's real. Yeah. Well, what about the wires coming out? Oh, right, that's his feet. Yeah. That's his feet.
What are you talking about? I don't like his feet. So even on set, he went above and beyond to make sure that this thing was as realistic to these kids and to Dee Wallace. Dee Wallace is like, it was putting on a performance It's not a puppet. It's not Snuggles the bear for
And according to Spielberg, it was a great actor. It never broke down. He was afraid that he was going to have another Jaws situation.
How crazy is this that two of this guy's biggest movies rely on these animatronic creatures as main
actors?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd think he would have learned his lesson by then.
And you know what I loved is talking about the E.T. fingers. The woman with the gloves who had the long fingers.
There's a lady who was a mime, and her whole job was just doing the close-up hand shots.
So it's like Muppets, where you've got Fozzie and you've got two other Muppeteers with their hands in Fozzie's hands. So you're scratching Fozzie's head and doing all this other stuff. That's what she's doing under the table with E.T.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of these movies you see, and he's always putting pieces of himself into this stuff. And as a kid in his teens, when his parents got divorced, that was the main thrust of this movie, was he wanted to deal with these kids and dealing with a broken family. And I think a studio had come along with a script for an alien invasion movie. And he didn't want any part of it. But somehow when he was filming Close Encounters, at the end, when you see those little aliens created by Carlos Rambaldi, he said, what would happen if one of those guys got left behind or stayed here? And it was like an international foreign exchange student. And that was kind of like the genesis of this whole idea. And then he just merged the two stories together. He was working on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Melissa Matheson, who at the time was Harrison Ford's girlfriend, but she's a big name writer. And he got a hold of her and he's like, here's an idea. Why don't you go write a script? And she came back and he was like, this first draft was the greatest thing I'd ever read in my life. And he's like, I got to make this movie.
So I got to bring up the story around this original movie that he turned down called Dark Skies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It sounds like Signs.
Yes. Yeah.
A family on a farm is besieged by aliens trying to get in the house.
Yeah, you probably.
So I was like, wait a second. So I go and looked up Signs to see who wrote that, and it's just M. Night Shyamalan. But it's the same producer, Kathleen Kennedy, on both movies. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how much of that bled into.
Sure.
Signs.
I mean, and he turned it down because he said, why would aliens come billions of light years away just to harass us? And then he turned around and made War of the Worlds. It's like, wait a minute. What am I doing wrong?
That's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
In 1982, going to see this, I saw this on opening weekend because, again, my dad was very cutting edge when it came to movies. So we were there opening night for, Raiders, for all the big blockbusters that came out. E.T. included. So there was no pre-press for this. I just knew the title, and that was it. I did not know what E.T. looked like or anything, about the story. Seeing this, it was a clean slate, and I was seeing E.T. for the first time as Elliot was seeing. And I was, Elliot, it was a jump scare to me when you in the corn and everything.
Do we have cornfields in California?
I guess they must. Stalks of something out there. He hooked me. I was 11 when E.T. came out.
There you go.
So just, Elliot's age. So this really spoke to me.
Again, I couldn't tell you when we saw it, but it had been out for a while because it was my mom's friend who said, you have to go take the kids to go see this movie. And I do remember her repeating a line, where Michael's friends are busting Elliot's chops about his little gremlin. He's like, where does he come from? Uranus? Get it? Your anus? And she just kept repeating it over and over again. Like that was a selling point to go take your kids to go see it because they're talking about buttholes. I don't know.
That was the takeaway? That was the takeaway?
That was our takeaway. We did. We went in the theater. We saw it. And my sister forever traumatized.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant for me either, watching the end of the movie. Not the very end, but what comes before. I just really have to give kudos to the marketing team because it was kind of like the 98 Godzilla where they kept this hidden and I had no idea.
Yeah. But once that movie came out, then he was everywhere. Yeah. Like you said, he was hawking products left and right and toys galore. I do remember a picture of him with Michael Jackson. Maybe it was on the cover.
That was on the cover of People.
Rolling Stone? Oh, People. Okay.
People magazine, yes.
Why there was a connection between those two, I have no idea.
I'm sure Michael Jackson probably bought E.T. and was in his house next to the Elephant Man.
Ooh, I wonder where that resides now. They actually, I did read that they insured him for like $1.2 million, the actual full size character. But that polyurethane foam and all that stuff, that's not meant to last. He's somewhere.
Jack probably also bought the operators, so they also came with
They came with it. They're all like living in Jackson's
They're just
basement.
laying on the floor so he couldn't see them.
Yeah, I think even Spielberg was surprised at how well this movie came out.
Yeah, because he actually says on set when they were doing the 1981 interviews on set, he says to the camera, "This is a small movie for me."
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming off Close Encounters and Jaws. And
it
then
only
you just filmed Raiders.
It cost $10 million to make.
And I think 10% of that went to E.T. himself. But on the outside, it is a small, intimate movie. It's just about this kid, dealing with. So I guess I don't remember that dad was a deadbeat dad and he left. Because at one point, the mom even says, "Why don't you call dad and tell him about it?" "Oh, dad's in Mexico now with Sally or something." And there is that one scene where the boys are in the garage and they're kind of like lamenting dad, what he smelt like. And I'm like, he's a deadbeat, man. He left you.
Yeah, as if he was dead. That's how far away he is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in Mexico, he might as well be.
Columbia didn't want it. Columbia Pictures, who put out Close Encounters of the Third Kind. In the behind the scenes, Spielberg kind of glosses over it, saying, well, they had this movie that they could make or Starman, and they chose to go with Starman.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Starman.
Which is, the Jeff Bridges
Karen Allen,
which we have covered, which is a great movie on its own. So he shopped it to Universal instead. But if you read some of the detail about it, Columbia weren't confident in E.T. They said they thought it was too much of a kids movie and too much of a niche audience for kids.
Listen, this could have gone right. This could have been a Mac and Me, a goofy little.
The name of the movie was E.T. and Me when Melissa Matheson did the first draft.
E.T. and Me. Oh,
yeah.
I did see originally it was called A Boy's Life.
Yeah, I think that was like what was the fake name of Return of the Jedi? Blue Harvest. That was kind of to throw everybody off.
Imagination.
Yeah. Columbia Pictures, it's like, what is it? Decca Record Company passing on the Beatles. Like, yeah, we don't want it. Not for us.
Yeah, we're fine.
We don't want to make money. No.
Yeah. Yeah, he was like, I figured at best I'd make a cute little Disney movie,
And he says, and this is really true because you forget about this, that Disney was fallible back then because a lot of their movies failed at the box office. So they had a stigma around them at the time.
Yeah,
like Black Cauldron, I think, is the one
that probably was the kiss of death there. Yeah, you had not gotten into the Lion King / Aladdin, Little Mermaid era.
No,
not for another couple of years.
It could be understandable on Columbia's point. Well, we don't want this. We see that this fails on a regular basis at the box office.
Right.
So instead we get Universal and we get that classic, that Jaws era Universal logo. Yeah. Does it pan back or it just pans up or down and then you just see space, the night sky?
Yeah. Night sky.
That beautiful, the all-encompassing. I wish I still had the 5.1 going with this movie. When you go down into the forest and just the endless trees going up into the sky and then the crickets surrounding you, it puts you in such a place. You can smell it. You can hear the crunch under your feet as you're walking. It's
that's very visceral. So even like that shot of the ship, I mean, they built a spaceship for the most part. I mean, there's some model work, but it's not, it wasn't until years later that they had the CG capability to, like I said, the enhanced is out there where they went and replaced a lot of this animation. Again, this is like, Lucas, just because you now have the capabilities to make the ships fly faster in Star Wars, you undo all the stuff that those artists created. It's like eliminating some of this stuff. And one of the scenes that they talked about was E.T. immediately gets abandoned because he gets separated from the ship. And all of a sudden these, you see the trucks come flying in. And the interesting thing is that he's constantly shooting this at almost like Elliot E.T. level. Like you never see an adult's face outside of mom until toward the end of the movie when they invade the house. But I think that's the payoff, which is these are just these enigmatic figures that are chasing after him. They don't have any identities. You know, the one guy, Peter Coyote, is, you know, he just has a set of keys on him. They actually just call him keys in the script.
Yeah,
But,
and you don't know who these people are if they're
no,
government
you don't. Right.
until like at the end, like one of their cars says U.S. government on it, and that's the only indication that you ever get.
But there's that scene where E.T. flies through the forest. Again, you talk about like that visceral. You hear the crunching, you hear the crickets chirping or whatever. And this thing's like in a flight for his life, and you just see the heart light, and he's just zooming through the forest. And what they did in the enhanced version was go back and be like, well, you know, we know now that this guy had like these little waddle feet, so he probably wouldn't move like that. So they actually created like a gorilla gait for him where he's like running with his arms. And I'm like, I don't need to see him hopping through the forest. So as soon as I saw him like zipping like he was on a railroad track, I'm like, okay, good. This is the theatrical. This is not the enhanced.
This sequence also gives the plot point that these things are empaths, because when one of them panics, they all panic because they're feeling each other's emotion. And that plays into what happens with Elliot later, because he also
Which makes you wonder, like, do I just have to be in proximity to him? Because at the end, when he says, I'll be right here, does that mean that they're forever connected somehow?
It could be, because you also get that throwaway line from Keyes saying, I've been waiting my whole life for this. So it makes it sound like he encountered
that right there, that little line right there. I'm glad that you pointed it out, because I'm like, that right there is a sequel. I want to see this guy
a prequel.
What?
Yeah.
Or a prequel. Yeah. Like, what set this guy in motion that he's obsessed with?
But this guy is not very friendly to him in the beginning, running around with flashlights, scaring him.
Abducted, and he started the X-Files, and now he's after her.
This is a dream come true. I've waited to torture this thing my whole life.
I know, right? Thanks, kid. You lured it in.
Yeah. But the fact that he panics and is running and you hear him screeching, like you said, he's fighting for his life to get back to that ship. And they leave him high and dry. Why does he need to call them? They know he's still there.
Yeah. Like it's like a do-it-yourself kit there. They don't have like communicators.
Yeah.
Again, you think this guy goes back home and he gets fired? They're like, dude, you've put the entire mission in jeopardy.
He probably does. And, Papa Smurf, for lack of a better term, is waiting for him at the door. Like, come on, Bob, come on.
Yeah, he's like, oh, crap, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
He brings the plant back. He's like, all right, well, he did something. Look, I got this. You jeopardized everything. They'd just gone to like the Sedona Desert, far away from humanity, to collect some samples. They're like right on the edge of the city.
I know. They could have got some good like cacti and stuff out there. The Joshua tree.
Called a YouTube concert.
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Like, as you said before, in this opening scene, the magnificence of the trees and the forests, again, filmed from his point of view. So he's looking up and you can't even see the tops of the trees.
No. And you realize how small he is in the universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, they leave him. They're like, no, sorry. Keyes is coming. We got a jet. They probably know all about Keyes.
That guy has been after me for the last 45 years. I can't. Keyes. Yes. But this is where we're introduced to Elliot and his family.
The classic scene, which Spielberg already, kind of perfected with Close Encounters, the family around the table talking over each other. Scene.
Talking over. And actually, he did say that I think he came from a family of a bunch of sisters. And he said it's incredibly tame compared to like what he grew up with, where, people are screaming at each other and talking over each other. So he did tone it down. But no way these kids are D&D players. They're just not dorky enough.
They seem like they would beat up D&D players, these kids.
Correct. Yeah. And I didn't realize, my wife had to point this out toward the end of the movie, that the one kid is C. Thomas Howell. Yeah.
They call him Tom Howell in the credits.
No. Well, I didn't recognize it, but then again, I'm not a prepubescent 8-year-old girl, so I guess I didn't know that was him.
Well, for prepubescent boys, we have Erica Eleniak in the classroom scene, who was later on Baywatch. That's the girl that Elliot kisses.
Oh, I did not. I never watched Baywatch, so I did not know that was her. Why is it that she has 2 frogs in her hands, and yet one lands on her foot, and then she loses her mind?
That's not the same girl that he kisses. That's not the girl with pigtails, right?
Oh, sorry. I guess I thought it was the same girl. Yeah. I'm also not buying that one pizza was enough to feed 6 people.
The kids, don't know what they're doing. They're the ones that ordered it. Mom didn't, because she was mad at them.
Yeah,
Let's just get a
via
pizza.
ground
Let's
movement.
order a pizza. I don't know how many slices.
You underordered, dude.
And then the one kid who's about to touch mom's butt as she's bending over to get stuff out of
Hey,
the.
listen, we've all been there. Your mom's hot. I heard Dad's not around. Leave my mom alone.
But this is where we get into the scary part of the movie, where you don't know what E.T. really looks like yet because he's just in silhouette and shadow and in the beginning. So now he's in the shed. So
Yeah, this is a
Elliot
great scene.
rolls the
This is
ball and it
fantastic.
comes rolling right back out.
And he steps on the pizza.
Yeah.
And then he brings them all outside. They tell him it's a coyote. Like, coyotes are not tossing you a ball back. Then they still leave the pizza out there.
But later on in the movie, he goes back outside. He's knocking over garbage cans. There's all this noise. Nobody wakes up.
I did read that I think they used a total of like 18 different voice actors, including Deborah Winger and a sea otter. So that might be where those screams come from.
The main voice of E.T.
Oh, is that
speaking voice?
Yes.
Is Pat Welsh,
Yeah.
an actress who had a 2-pack a day smoking habit. So that
Hey,
was
I come
pretty
from another
much
planet, kid.
that was pretty much her real voice.
Yeah, no, I don't remember who it was that discovered her in the grocery store. He's like, holy shit. So like a 10 million year old alien. Can I record you?
But the next morning, he famously takes the bag of Reese's Pieces out to the forest to
And it's
lure
interesting
him.
because you really don't see the bag. Like, it's not like clear. It's not like straight in your face product placement.
No.
You
But
know,
as
like
a kid, knowing candy, because Reese's
the orange
Pieces are
bag was
only
enough, right?
only orange and yellow and brown pieces, right? There's only 3 colors to
You
Reese's
think
Pieces.
this still gets brought up at M&M meetings?
I think it still does. Let's not have another ET here, people.
Yeah. No, they famously said, we don't want any part of this.
Well, think of it this way. So M&M said no. Now Elliot is forced to use Reese's Pieces to lure E.T. So, okay, next morning he gets all his gear on. He's about to go out and look for the alien. He looks at the candy shelf. Okay, I don't want to use the M&Ms because I like them.
Right.
What can I use
How about
that's
this
garbage?
crap?
We don't have Butterfinger, so I can't use that. So I'll use the most disposable candy I can, Reese's Pieces. So I don't know if Reese's Pieces even would have still been a thing today if it wasn't for E.T. Because I certainly didn't care
put
about
them on
Reese's Pieces.
Imagine if he was allergic to peanut butter and he just died right then and there. Did he just eat them or did he just collect them and give them back to Elliot?
No, Keys is the one that eats them. I'm like, don't eat that, dude. Like, you don't know what kind of fecal matter is on there.
He could have pooped them out for all you know.
Yeah. I just called that guy Mr. Bojangles for most of the movie.
Ooh,
Keys.
Mr. Bojangles. So the only other time I ever saw this in the theater was in college. So it was probably 1985. We had a little playhouse theater, and every, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday was movie night. And we went to go see E.T. in the theater. And I got into a fight with a friend who was very adamant that George Lucas was the scientist in the beard at the end of the movie when they had E.T. on the table.
Yeah, because only directors would have a beard like that.
Well, I mean, listen, I couldn't just Google it back then, but I was pretty sure that was not George Lucas, and she was mad at me. We got into a fight over this.
You know what's funny is
I can't watch
on this
movie
viewing,
being like, I was so right.
On this viewing, I watched that scene. I'm like, is that Francis Ford Coppola?
He does look more like Coppola than he does Lucas.
But I don't think it's either of them.
No, it's not.
I think Coppola was a bit larger than that guy was.
They did say, I did see that Deborah Winger does get credit as one of the nurses during that sequence. Really? But they're all like in hazmat suits and stuff, so you wouldn't know it was her.
No.
Yeah. And from what I understand, for the most part, they were real doctors. Like he's like, just treat. Yeah, he brought them all in. He says, treat this like it's a real patient.
Because all these directors knew each other back then, and they're all showing up in each other's movies. So that would have been perfect, for an opportunity for that.
So speaking of which, he does a fairly good job of paying homage to Star Wars with all the action figures, and Elliot's got Incredible Hulk sleeping bags. And I'm like, all right, so this is like a normal kid.
Yeah.
Show E.T. is Greedo and Hammerhead.
And all the action figures were like from the Tatooine cantina. Even Boba Fett, who didn't show up in that cantina until years
Right.
later in the special edition. They're all from Tatooine.
He had one of the harder to find play sets, which was that Imperial Star Destroyer. It's just like the little bridge.
And
it's like a little wedge shaped thing, but
it had the Darth Vader chamber, right?
Yeah.
I had that.
Yes, I think you're right. I never had that. And he also had the Hoth playset with the Probot. So yeah.
All Spielberg got to do was give a call to Kenner, right? And then he's got all that stuff on set the next day.
Yeah, he probably had it in his own collection. He probably just called George. He said, George, can you bring over some of those figures that you collected? So, and of course, obviously, George Lucas paid homage to this movie in Phantom Menace. If you watch the Senate scene, we have E.T. delegates.
Yep.
So they do exist. So that scene where he sees the kid dressed as Yoda and starts screaming home. So he's like, oh, maybe they do come from the same universe.
Yeah.
So.
But yet the next night, Elliot's back outside the shed. It lures E.T. out. And as you said, E.T. gives back a handful of the Reese's Pieces. He's like, I don't want this crap.
He's like, you have any M&Ms? But this kid, he spends 3/4 of the movie in insulated underwear, which I guess at that age, when we were that time, we all had them. My brother used to run around in insulated underwear, and he was a little on the husky side. And my uncle from Ohio would call him PBDB, Pillsbury Doughboy.
To be a little less cruel, he would just initialize it instead of saying the whole thing.
Yeah.
Would he say it like Tweaky from Buck Rogers? Yep.
PBDB. I can't even do it. But yeah, Elliot uses the light bulb to fake a fever so he can stay home and hang out with ET. And I'm like, that never works, because you spike it up and all of a sudden it's like 128 degrees and you're like, dude, you're dead.
Also, we get the scene what we just talked about where Bojangles and his men are looking in the forest and he eats the feces pieces, as I like to call it.
Feces pieces. I can't just eat one.
And it seems to take them a lot longer than it should to figure out that E.T. is in this house. Because they even hear them talking about it, and it's not until like 2 days later that they actually go in the house.
Yeah, they probably had to get proper permits.
Yeah.
Could we
I don't think these guys...
I don't know.
And you know what I love about Elliot's room even more so than the Marvel and Star Wars is
the poster?
His Gallagher rainbow blinds. or actually his Mork for Mork suspender rainbow blinds.
Mork suspenders.
Yeah. Love those blinds.
Yeah, that room was pretty trash to begin with. So when Mom comes in, she's like, "What happened in here? It's like a war zone." It's like, doesn't look at it. So the shelf fell down. I did read that it was Robert Zemeckis who came up with the idea of having E.T. hide within the wall of stuffed animals. That was him.
I think that I would see like an old man face in the middle of, even if I was quickly looking through a wall of plushes, I think that would startle me.
Yeah, what if E.T. found out those were all like real people that Elliot had killed and just left in his closet? He's like, son of a bitch, I need to get out of here. This kid's a psycho.
What I think is an homage to Close Encounters, where Elliot drops the milk with the open refrigerator.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
When E.T. opens the umbrella and startles him.
We also get, was it Michael that said he got 69,000 on asteroids?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Because Spielberg, in one of those bonus scenes, is talking to the kids about his favorite arcade video games. And they're talking, Space Invaders, of course. Spielberg's favorite is Asteroids, that he says. And I think Henry Thomas says Missile Command is his favorite.
Missile Command.
But
we saw John Connor playing that last episode.
Yeah. But Spielberg was saying, surprisingly, he saw more of himself in Michael because he was that age.
Older,
during his parents' divorce.
Right, yeah. Yeah, mom kind of gets the shaft a little bit here. These kids, it's a kid's movie, so parents never know anything anyways. Dad's a deadbeat and mom's always working, so
yeah. And we haven't talked about Gertie yet.
No. She got this part because she was trying out for another movie. She was trying out for Poltergeist.
Was she going to be the Heather Rourke? She was trying out for that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also read that Corey Feldman was hired as Elliot's friend. And at the last minute, Spielberg decided to cut that character altogether, but then felt bad. So gave him the part in Goonies.
Years later to stick around,
as an apology. Yeah. Yeah. Hang in there, Corey.
But yeah, Drew Barrymore she steals every scene that she's in.
She's fantastic.
Even from E.T., she steals scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, again, you talk about these behind the scene, those ET diaries or journals are fantastic. I never knew any of this existed, that this level of filming of the making of this movie was out there. And that's because I've always wanted it to just kind of exist as its own thing. Like you said, it's not a franchise. It's not something that you delve into and dissect every piece of it. So to watch them filming those scenes where she's reacting to this thing live, and like Michael's reveal, like that's the first time he saw that creature. They purposely hid it from him so that he had somewhat of a natural reaction, which is pretty hard to do. You hear again, you talk about Goonies with Richard Donner, and he talks about, trying to hide the pirate ship from the kids. And meanwhile, they all snuck on stage and saw it weeks before they had the big reveal on screen. She is all of 4. She's probably my sister's age at the time.
The scene where she screams and they have to muffle her. So
yeah, and it's hysterical because now E.T.'s screaming, mom comes home, they're all trying to hide. That's
another hallmark of early Spielberg. Lots of screaming going on in his movies. If you've ever seen 1941, that is like a screaming movie.
Is a scream. And then he's like, I'm keeping him. It's like, what? What is he, a bald monkey? I think he's a piggy. He's like,
it's a puppy that followed him home.
Yeah, right. He has no idea what this thing even is.
But what's great about this is that he lets in the siblings very early on. So it's the movie about all the kids.
You got to have accomplices. You got to let everybody in on it. Listen, this is our secret.
It is largely, it's Elliot's story, but it's really all about all the kids trying to keep this secret.
Yeah.
And E.T. has a relationship with all of them.
But he is, like you said, right from the very beginning, you get like almost immediately, you're like, are they connected? Like, I know there's that scene where E.T. is home and he's drinking the beer and he's watching the TV, and it's a direct translation to what Elliot is feeling at school with the frogs. And I'm like, or even earlier in that, you get this impression that they are immediately connected. And I'm like, wow, I don't remember that being not that they beat you over the head with it, but it is very obvious that they are symbiotically attached somehow empathetically.
And I wonder if he taught him how to use the toilet at some point, because he ate a lot of food while he was
Does this thing even
there.
poop? Again, it might just poop out the food looking exactly like it was. Keys is out there eating feces pieces. But yeah, it's too bad Coors didn't get a bigger cut of some of this product placement, because he gets buzzed on one beer.
Now, this seems really cruel. Like the kids have to kill the frogs as well as dissect them. I just remember getting frogs. I just remember getting frogs already dead, like that were frozen.
And they were always bigger. Yeah, because they were always like in formaldehyde.
But then again, it wouldn't work.
No,
Elliot
the whole
has
point
to
was
free them. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is also the scene, I don't remember this, where E.T. sees the Buck Rogers comic strip. And
yes,
that's where he gets the idea for a communication device. And it's like, help me. So he reads English? So he can read English?
Well, no, that Buck Rogers was only pictures. It wasn't.
No, it says help me. You literally see the whatever, the weight.
But he's also reading, he was reading an ABC magazine. When he brings the flowers back to life in front of the TV.
Well, he was watching Sesame Street.
And Tom and Jerry.
Well, Tom and Jerry would ruin everybody. I'm surprised he didn't wait for everyone to come home and just bash him over the head with a frying pan.
Phone home.
Good thing he wasn't watching the Three Stooges.
Oh, but at one point, E.T., like when he's got the run of the house to himself, he comes out in his robe. He's like, you might as well see him on the toilet with his newspaper, in the morning.
Yeah. Yes. But then we said the little do-it-yourself intergalactic communication kit. Everything you need right there.
So I assume that E.T. told the kids what stuff he needed from the garage, or unless the kids just gave him random stuff.
That was my intent. What I took away was that they were just throwing stuff at him, going, "How about this? Can you use this?" That's where Michael and Elliot get into the whole reminiscing about dad thing. I'm like, how long has this guy been gone?
This whole thing with Elliot, this was really kind of lost on me, this part, when I was a kid watching this, the whole frog thing and being tied to E.T., because
Right.
not only is he acting drunk, but he's also kissing the girl like on the movie.
Like, and literally repeating he's
that E.T. is
reenacting
watching.
what's on the TV. Yeah.
So now, have you heard about this deleted scene with Harrison Ford that came right after the frog scene?
Yes. So, yeah, it's actually on that disc.
Oh, really? I didn't see it on that disc.
So you never see his face. It's all shot from behind. And Harrison Ford is pretty much in shadow, and he's the principal, just kind of chastising Elliot for acting out in class.
Is he grumpy, Harrison Ford, in this?
He's
scene?
always grumpy. There's no other version of Harrison Ford, but they were filming Raiders at the time, so too bad he didn't have a fedora on. That would have been fun. Well, he was Matheson's boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
And then she became his future ex-wife. Yeah, we just jumped right over the future wife and just went right to the ex. Yeah. But then we get this. This is classic Spielberg, where you got mom reading to Gertie and they're reading Peter Pan.
And E.T. is, by extension, she's also reading to him.
Hook was 91 and same year as Terminator 2. So, and then we have a Pinocchio reference in Close Encounters.
And then before that even happens, we get the slapstick scene where mom coming home and E.T.'s right there and she just doesn't see him every time. Oh,
knocking him
around.
over. That just shows you that mom is preoccupied with other things in her life. Yeah.
And then she just leaves Gertie by herself. That would also never fly today when she goes to pick up Elliot. Just stay here.
Well, think about this. So when they go out for Halloween and they disguise E.T. with a ghost sheet, and the mom thinks that that's Gertie. Like, where is Gertie? Was she like already out on the street somewhere?
Well, there's a scene with her. She also has a ghost thing, but she's up like in the above suburbia. So she's looking down and she's got a walkie-talkie and she's talking to Michael or talking to somebody on it. I believe that she's got that.
Well, there is a cut scene later where you see Michael and Gertie after Elliot goes off into the woods with E.T. And it's like a war zone. There's like kids throwing eggs at the car, and they're
because late you do see Michael with Gertie.
And at that time, she's wearing a cowboy. She looks like Jessie from Toy Story.
Well,
and you're like, wouldn't the mom question? Wait, weren't you in a ghost costume?
Because she had that on over her cowgirl outfit in that scene.
But he was wearing clown shoes. It doesn't hold together for me. I don't know. But again, I think the larger point is that mom is not paying attention.
No, and I think it's the same night, or maybe the night before, where Mr. Bojangles is in the surveillance van and they're going down the street and they're listening to all the conversations.
Right.
I would have loved just to have heard somebody letting one go.
Why does Elliot continue to pedal when he's in the air?
Well, I think I would too.
You think so? You think I gotta keep this up?
You just gotta pretend that you're the one doing it, right?
Even later, those kids are like, keep paddling. Yeah, it's like it's not it works.
But this is also where we're getting hints that E.T. is not feeling well.
Yeah.
Nor is Elliot, by extension.
Well, he's been on this planet too long.
Because, not only do you see it physically, but the flower that he brought back to life is now dying.
Yeah, which is a nice little nod. It's a metaphor to, that I'm not doing so well here.
Yeah.
You better hurry up. Get these guys to come and take me off planet.
And we didn't talk about the Yoda scene. Well, we did, but he sees Yoda on Halloween, a kid dressed as Yoda.
Oh.
And he tries to follow Yoda. And you hear the Yoda theme.
Yes,
because thankfully it's John Williams, so he could do it.
And the score is phenomenal, by the way.
In the behind the scenes, when they're scoring the movie, they're scoring that part, and John says to Spielberg in the control room, "Do you think anybody's going to notice that? Only about 200 million people."
Any of them lawyers?
Yeah,
I would think he'd retain the rights. I guess not. You create that work.
Well, they're friends. He's friends with everybody. So George is probably like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Take it. I'll get royalties somehow.
Mm-hmm. Elliot gets E.T. into the woods on Halloween night and goes missing in the process. But this is where you get the first bike over the moon shot.
Yeah.
And the first swell of that E.T. theme. So I just want to just stop and say that I think movies today are missing these epic themes. Like, when was the last time you got a Superman level, Raiders of the Lost Ark level, E.T. level movie theme?
You just mentioned everything played by John Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about this actively watching Thunderbolts. I'm like, there's nothing musically.
Was it who did the Avengers theme?
Well, that's an exception. Okay. That's a theme that I do remember, the Avengers theme. But I couldn't remember anything since then in a Marvel movie.
Yeah. No, this is the beauty and the genius of John Williams, is to be able to tap into, get these characters to create emotion with that music.
And the Superman theme actually hits the beats of the word Superman. Dun, dun, dun.
Superman. Now I'm going to sing that. Now when we see that in the theater, I'm just going to go, Superman. Well, Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. You could do it, I guess.
You could do it with anything, yeah. Suits converge on the house. So they just enter the house and leave afterwards? They do, because...
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because then later, right, because Elliot's gone, and it's not until she sees... yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they come back a second time.
The creature's not here. Oh, she got the wrong house. Sorry, ma'am. How do you explain that to the neighbors? All of a sudden your house is like covered in plastic with tubes all over it. It's like, boy, those tailors really go all out for Halloween,
I
don't
guess
they?
So, yeah. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here.
Biohazard.
But yeah, so apparently the phone call works that E.T. does. And I could see Papa Smurf in the spaceship getting the phone call. Oh, I guess he's alive. Let's go back.
We already called his wife. So, damn it. Are you going to make that phone call?
But yeah, Elliot stumbles back home and he's like close to death. Nobody knows where E.T. is. Michael goes out on his bike to go look for him.
Oh, this scene is so heart-wrenching. Because now he's just like pasty white. Now he looks like Pillsbury Doughboy.
I think, in your sister's defense, this whole sequence where E.T. is dying goes on for a little bit too long.
It's a good 10, 12 minutes where he's dead.
And like Spielberg is just twisting. He stabbed you, and now he's twisting that knife.
You know what concerned me even more was the damn raccoon crawling
eating his head. He's eating his head.
He's telling all of his raccoon friends, I found a giant alien marshmallow over here.
No, he's like, I found dinner over here. Come on.
How did he get him back on the bike? Mom, it's the man from the moon. Mom's like, what the?
I can't tell you how haunting of an image that is. Like the reveal of E.T. like under the bridge.
Yeah, like refuse. It just left.
Yeah. No,
it is brutal. Yeah. And then this is the scene where the mom's trying to, we got to get out of this house. And this is the big, the astronaut Vader that's just waiting for her at the door. And this is the first time you really see Key's face, Peter Coyote.
And they're all dressed like extras in Stanley Kubrick's moon landing. All these guys.
Yeah. He's your leftover. Kubrick left them for us. Yeah. This is where it really just goes into you're just like, what is going on here?
Elliot's wailing on the bed next to E.T., which, does not make it better. And this is where the government is monitoring both of them simultaneously. They have the same vitals and their conditions are mimicking each other. And then I guess E.T. sacrifices himself for Elliot?
I don't know. So here's the thing, which is if they're emotionally connected, wouldn't Elliot have known that he was still alive?
Yes, he would have, unless E.T. at that point severed the connection.
It could be. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna fake my death here, kid. Just hang tight for 1 minute. Shh, don't tell the audience.
Or then why did he get to that state to begin with if he was never in any peril? Right. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
What brought him back? Was it Elliot that was killing him?
I don't know if Elliot was. Ooh, Elliot. Love's so dangerous.
Yes.
I loved him to death.
But this is also where we get Bojangles' confession. I've been waiting for this since I was 10 years old.
Yeah, he came to me as well.
He came to me
wishing
too.
For this since I was 10. I'm like, I want to hear that story.
Then be a little bit nicer to him then, Bojangles.
Right. Understand, to be a little more sympathetic toward this kid who...
Yeah.
And I got no friends. My dad left me. My mom is always working. Her brother's a douche. I get stuck babysitting my sister.
But there's a great scene during this whole drama where Mike hides in the plush room.
Oh, no, yeah.
And he just wants to regress, I guess, is a good word.
Well, he crumbles. He's you got to be the he's the man of the house. I can't deal with this anymore. He says, I'm going over here. But no, Elliot's.
But you get the defib paddles. Gertie's crying. Elliot's screaming.
Plant's dying. Yeah.
Dogs and cats living together.
It really is a brutal scene. Thanks, Steven.
After E.T. dies, then they turn to the family. Now we have to kill you.
Correct, right. Hope you got your affairs in order. Well, we will be offing you now. Off to Siberia we go with you.
But again, you get no explanation who these people are, even at this point.
No, which is fine. I don't need to know exactly what organization they're attached with. They're black ops. I think he's dead. And then he's not.
But yeah, they give Elliot time. Keyes gives Elliot time to be alone with E.T.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you just enough time to let him resurrect.
Was it this E.T. Was it this E.T. that Keyes experienced? Just some other random E.T.?
I'm assuming that, I don't know. Otherwise, that he would be somehow psychically connected to him. He'd be like, yeah, I remember you. And
Elliot says, look at what they've done to you. They didn't do anything to him. He did.
It's all your fault, Elliot. Damn you, kid. And when you keep in. Nice.
But Elliot tells him he loves him. And cue Neil Diamond.
We don't get Heartlight.
Here comes that Heartlight. Because that song didn't come out until after the movie. Neil Diamond saw the movie and wrote the song.
No, is that what it was?
That's what it was. Yeah.
I thought that I did not delve too deep into this, but I thought that this was supposed to be on the soundtrack and he did not deliver it in a timely fashion.
I don't think, maybe I'm wrong about that, but
no, you may be right. I just wrote a note, Heartlight, Neil Diamond.
But the movie does not need Heartlight by Neil Diamond.
No, I'm glad. It would have made that whole end schmaltzy.
Yeah.
You keep that orchestral score going. So he's alive. And Elliot rejoices. And
so again, you ask yourself, what was the point of putting us all through that if he was alive the whole time? And
it's an emotional roller coaster. Yeah, Spielberg at his best.
And then Bojangles, he doesn't actually say to the family that he's going to kill them, but you'll be detained for 8 days to 2 weeks. Standard. Did you hear that line? He tells the mother in the background.
Yeah, right. Okay. I have a job. Can I go to my job? I promise not to tell anybody. No one will believe me anyways.
And this is where this is where Michael's punk friends come back into the story. And one of them actually says they're waiting outside behind the lines. Oh, they're going to die in there. Like glad about it, he sounds.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Again, these kids are not Dungeons and Dragon kids.
These kids would beat up E.T. if he gave them the chance.
Correct. Man, for all we know, they're the ones that left him in the creek.
Yeah.
They robbed him, took his speak and spell and his hot air popcorn popper.
But this is where, Stranger Things got its mojo from kids on bikes.
Kids on bikes. Yep. No, this is a very iconic scene. Yeah, this is the scene where, like I said, in the enhanced version, I don't know, someone he got this stuck in his craw, the idea that these police officers would pull shotguns on these kids, and decided to replace them with walkie-talkies.
No, the version I saw had the shotguns.
Yep, they sure did. There it is. It's not like they're pointing them at them. It's not like they don't know what this alien thing can do. They're just, probably this government agency that contacted them was just like, listen, man, APB out on this thing.
The whole bike sequence, again, as an 11-year-old, I'm thinking, I got a bike. I could have done this. It spoke to me. It was like he was speaking on my level, Spielberg.
Yeah. Yeah. I think every kid who ever jumped off a little, hill, we've always been there. Yeah, woo, I got some air.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably would have thrown up my lunch.
But yeah, all these punk kids get to take the ride across the moon. These kids don't deserve it.
Dude, you weren't a part of the story in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Other than to make Uranus jokes. But yeah, this is where, I mean, he tells him straight up, I'll be here. And I'm like, are they always going to be connected then? Like, this poor kid's got to go back to his life after this. It's going to suck.
And he's going to just be waiting for E.T. to come back.
Correct. Now, not only do I have an MIA dad, now I got this best cool alien friend I just met. Now he's gone.
And then he sees Papa Smurf waiting for him, and he's like, Shazbot.
Shazbot.
This guy is going to ream me out when I get back on this ship.
Yeah, like I said, he's gonna lose his job. It's like, Bob, what were you doing? You put the entire mission at risk. Don't they have like a prime directive or something? Do not get involved. They're a primitive race.
Cue the waterworks. Everybody says goodbye to E.T.
Yeah. I'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
The music swells to unprecedented levels. Cut to black as the spaceship.
Oh, we got a nice little rainbow.
Yes.
Rainbow fixes it all. Yeah, you guys got a truck on that spaceship? Yeah, shoot it down. Missile command.
Yeah, that's Key's voice over
boom. Boom. And the movie, boom. No. You just see Elliot drop to his knees.
Yeah. That's where the Shazbot should come in, right before the...
You know what shocked me more than anything was that this has a 7.9 rating on IMDb. 7.9. That's it.
7.9.
7.9. Are people just that jaded anymore? I don't know. Are people still leaving reviews? No, I heard all the hype about this movie from 40 years ago. I watched it. It's not that good. Like you said, it's a product of its time. It was the biggest effing movie ever. I mean, Spielberg actually went on record and said he did not want this released on VHS.
Yeah, it didn't come out until
88.
88, yeah.
And then it was like gangbusters. It sold billions. But
imagine if he had his way and it didn't. Like, just the fact that this would have been like a
Song of the South
that you can only see when Spielberg decided to put it back out in theaters for a week or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what Disney used to do, right?
Yeah. Like, never sold the rights to TV or cable, never put it out on video, only put it back out in the theaters every anniversary or whatever it would have been. That would have been something, but yeah, you can't do that. You can't do that.
No, that would have been must see. Yeah, you'd all run back to the theater. It's like catching Rudolph on TV once a year.
So all you'd have is that memory of it from 20 years prior.
All right. Yeah. This was very nice watching this again. What I felt like there are certain scenes that you just know inside and out, but then just watching it with a clean slate. And again, happily realizing I am not watching the enhanced because I was not thrilled watching. I get it. We got this technology now. We can make his facial movements better. And it's like, okay, but he was what he was.
They did have a deleted scene or two on the disc that did have CGI ET, and it was terrible. It really was.
Is that the scene in the bathtub?
In the bathtub, yeah.
The bathtub. Actually, it was pretty clean for him jumping under the water. But yeah, there's, for the most part, you don't need that. It's a product of its, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that he immediately realized the mistake of replacing those shotguns. It was a very knee-jerk reaction. So, but yeah, the theatrical's out there.
Released on June 11th, 1982, the same day as John Carpenter's The Thing.
Ooh, 2 alien movies, huh?
Yeah, is that how's that for counter programming?
That is. I don't think I saw that for years and years. That was well beyond my
Yeah. That was almost immediately The Thing. We've done an episode on this, by the way. I couldn't tell you what episode number it was.
Yeah, I know. I haven't. But
that was almost like immediately a box office failure and a midnight cult movie simultaneously, The Thing. But E.T., again, made on a $10 million budget, made almost $800 million worldwide.
Crazy. No wonder why they were screaming for a sequel.
And apparently the sequel was going to involve, because as you said, a treatment was done.
Yep.
Of Elliot and his family and friends getting kidnapped by evil aliens and E.T. having to come to the rescue.
It was called E.T. 2 Nocturnal Fears. That would have been interesting. But he's just a botanist. He's not like John McClane. He's not a superhero.
Come to Earth, collect a few plants.
You'll love it, John. I'm glad that never happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
That in itself, being kidnapped by aliens, that's in itself a good movie, but don't bring E.T. into it.
No. Yeah. What you would need to do is bring back Ken Keys, and then you could have his flashback.
You're right. That would be a very good sequel idea.
Right. Find out what made this guy tick. Why is he after this thing? Because I would assume that this is the trajectory that Elliot's going to go. Elliot's going to be obsessed with this for the rest of his life. This kid's life is ruined now. Nothing on Earth is ever going to be good enough knowing that there's aliens out there. I was friends with him.
And nobody believing him, right?
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, sure. It's going to be a big government cover-up. So
he's going to grow up to traumatize a 10-year-old kid and his alien friend a little bit later on in his life.
There you go. That's a third movie in the trilogy.
There was 40 minutes that Spielberg cut out of this. 40 minutes. So I don't know where all that footage is because you only get a few minutes on the deleted scenes.
Interesting.
But he said that it played just as good, but he couldn't have a movie that was close to 3 hours long. So
yeah, because now you could. Now I think audiences are prepped, but this was like 2 hours exactly, right?
Just shy of 2 hours, actually. Right. Yeah.
I did see that in interviews, Spielberg has referenced the fact that E.T. is a plant-like creature and he is neither male nor female.
Well, Elliot seems to think wholeheartedly that he is male because he's him, he says at one point.
Correct. They all use the male pronoun. And that he, according to the novelization, he is over 10 million years old. 10 million years old and you still walked away from the ship. Not very smart.
Again, we could do a drinking game every time you say his name, Carlo Rambaldi.
Drink.
He was given the dictum from Spielberg, I want his eyes to be like Albert Einstein. And he was giving him these famous old person names.
They use that for inspiration of Yoda as well.
So he had pictures of various older people, did Carlo Rambaldi, and they, I guess, used that as inspiration for the big eyes of E.T., the expressive eyes of E.T.
Listen, for what it was, I mean, he expressed himself.
Yes.
He was a fully realized character.
The facial movements, I can't give this guy enough credit, and we didn't during our King Kong discussion.
No, but like I said, there's 12 other technicians and artisans hiding behind the scenes. He's got these little heartbeats, in like his temples that are pulsating, above and beyond his facial movements and his eyebrows and his mouth. So there's a lot going on with this guy.
Do you remember the theater that you saw this in?
Yeah, because it's the same theater I saw Star Wars in. Fox Theater. Yeah.
Was this a standalone theater for
you? Yeah. Oh, you want to know something really sad? We had just talked last episode about Terminator, and I had seen T2 at a little standalone theater in Brewster, New York. I went by it 2 days later. It is dilapidated. It's just all boarded up and looks. If I had the resources, I'd bring it back to its former glory.
But the building is still there.
The building is still there. It's still got the box office in the front, but it is pretty run down.
I saw it at the same theater I saw Terminator, actually, in the 4-screen cinema in the Duchess Mall, which is a long-defunct mall and cinema, right next door to the Dream Machine arcade. Ooh. So I remember being in the arcade before, because we had some time to kill. So we went and played some video games before going to see E.T. And I remember going back twice to see it at that theater, as a matter of fact.
Wow, you saw it 3 times in the theater.
At that same theater.
Okay. That's cool. I'm sure you've seen the E.T. Adventure in Universal.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk about that. The E.T. Adventure at Universal, when you go into this thing, because you've done the Terminator, so have you also done E.T. Adventure?
Yes, we did.
You know.
Yep.
You go in and you're given a card with a barcode on it. And as you enter the queue area, you give your name to the attendant, and he scans the barcode and takes the card back. So then you go into the queue area, which is a mock-up of the forest. So you're looking up as if you're ET because you can't see the tops
it's like
of the trees.
Forest perspective of the trees, yeah.
An indoor forest. It is so cool. And they're giving you the smells of the forest. Of course, you hear the crickets all around you. You see the phone contraption with the speak and spell. You walk by it in the queue.
I cut my finger on this oblate.
It's resting against one of the fake trees. So then you get on the ride itself, and you're on, although it holds, I don't know, like 10 people, but it's a mock-up of getting on a bike.
Yeah.
And then the bike lifts up, you're hearing the music, and there's cars, there's the Jeeps with the headlights pointing at you. You're going over the forest, and then suddenly you go into space, and you're seeing E.T.'s planet and all of his different friends. And that's kind of wonky. I would have liked it if it just stayed.
If you were just chased by the government
exactly,
guys?
or stayed or went through scenes of the actual movie, but the majority of the ride was going through E.T.'s planet. So it's kind of like a small world kind of a
yes, correct.
thing.
Yep.
And then at the end, E.T. says goodbye to you. A life-size version of E.T. is waving at you as the ride ends. And he's supposed to say your name. And that's why you give your name at the beginning of the ride. And I could never hear it. I could never, ever hear it. Because he's just quickly reading names from all 10 people that are in your bike vehicle. Goodbye. Da, 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 and you're listening so hard, and I could never hear it.
It's like watching your Magic Garden and waiting for them to call your name.
But I'm so glad it's still there.
Well, actually, it's in Orlando. It's no longer in Hollywood. Closed in 2003. Yeah, only in Orlando. If you want to go hang out with E.T. Yeah, there was a pseudo sequel in 2019. Spielberg actually gave Xfinity the rights to create a 4-minute ad in which it brought back Henry Thomas as a grown adult with his own family, and E.T. comes back to visit him. And it was like this little 4-minute commercial that aired.
Did Spielberg have any say in that? Did he have?
He approved it. I don't think he filmed it in any way, shape, or form, but it premiered during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it. And he's like, they're sharing videos and stuff. It's an ad. He's promoting. He's hawking stuff. He comes back just the hawk product. I heard he's got a meme coin now. Meme.
So what ET merchandise did you have? Do you remember having anything?
A little wind-up E.T. Actually, one of the things I still have, it's a little E.T. It's like a little ceramic head with his hands, and it hangs on the side of your flower pot. I think it was like an Avon product.
See, now, if you can see this.
Oh, look at you.
You see this thing? I still have this in my room, and he's got a little light-up finger.
Oh, is that what that is?
This is a knockoff. So what I'm describing here is a giant plush. So my family would alternate when I was a kid going on vacation during the summer to either Cape Cod or Seaside Heights, New Jersey.
Nice.
And we'd always go to the boardwalk on Seaside Heights, New Jersey. And there are carny rides, carny games. One of them had giant E.T. plushes. And this was the summer of 1982. So I'm there in my Asia album T-shirt. Thinking that I'm the coolest kid, in school. Yep. And this game, it was 50 cents a try. So you'd put your 50. It was a big roulette wheel. So you put your 50 cents on whatever you think the wheel is going to land on. Yep. And you just wish. I won this on the first try.
Wow, that's it.
Because I played it. It wasn't, I asked for the money from my father, and he gave it to me, and I played it, and I wanted. So he must have the carny guy, or maybe it was a teenager, must have hit the button for me to win, because there was no way that was a real thing.
Rigged? Don't ruin it. No, you won it in the heat of the moment. Man.
Or he wanted to move some of these. I don't know, but whatever.
I got to get rid of this inventory.
I won this thing. So this is, I think, still
literally been around since
for a
1982.
Knockoff. 1982. I think this looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's got some weird nose thing going on there, but All right. Wow.
And what I'll do is I'll put a photo of this guy on Blue Sky because we are no longer on X/Twitter. We are now on Blue Sky
Okay.
via my
Sure,
podcast. Man. There you have it. So that was my major ET merchandise. That I don't know if I ever had the official ET stuff. And once I got that, I was like, oh, why would I want the little thing? You know, so
life is complete.
I do remember the vitamins. Do you remember the ET vitamins?
I don't remember the vitamins.
The bottle had an actual ET cradling the bottle. So with an extended neck over the... So you would have to actually... I don't know if the head came off when you took unscrewed the bottle, or if you had to carefully unscrew it.
Oh, I don't remember that
in front of the head. But the vitamins didn't taste that good. Is my whole takeaway from this.
They don't even taste like Reese's Pieces.
Well, I went back and watched the TV commercial for the vitamins, and it said that they were like 50% less sugar than Flintstones. I'm like, well, that's why they didn't taste as
There's
good.
no sugar.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll stick with the Flintstone vitamins. Can't go wrong with a Flintstone vitamin.
And talking about Universal, in 1982 and during the Christmas season in Universal California, there was an ET Center where all the stuff that you could buy was captured in one place at Universal Studios. So it was basically an ET store.
Okay.
You could get Christmas gifts for your kids if you were visiting Universal
One-stop shopping.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we were kids, this didn't exist for us to watch. After its initial release, it did play throughout 1982. And from what I read, they re-released it in theaters in December for the Christmas season of 1982. But after that, like you said, it didn't come out on video for 6 years.
88. It's a long time.
So
talk about it.
So it did create a want for it, a need for it.
I wonder if it dropped on TV at some point. ABC before video.
It did.
Maybe. Movie of the week.
I wonder if it did, if they, like they often did with those, incorporate those deleted scenes or some of them.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing, maybe I've seen some stills of the him in the bathtub, but I don't remember any of the other, like the other stuff. I don't remember.
But yeah, E.T. $5.
He deserves it.
So do you want to induct him?
I'll induct E.T., the Extra Terrestrial. Welcome to the $5 Club, buddy. That's more important than any of those Academy Awards you won, by the way. The $5 Club.
It is. It absolutely is.
I'm sure Carlo Rambaldi's like, we got the $5. That is fantastic.
Hey, Carlo, please don't listen to our King Kong episode.
These boys know nothing.
We were staunchly Team Baker, meaning Rick Baker, during the King Kong episode.
The hell do we know?
Yeah.
What do we know? We do as much research as we can, but sometimes that just falls through the cracks.
I forgot how many times E.T. actually says E.T. phone home during this. You can't get him to stop saying it because when he comes back to life, E.T. phone home.
E.T. phone home. That's a missed opportunity with E.T.
They should have had a deleted scene with what's her name from Wendy's commercials lean in. Where's the beef? E.T. phone home. Where's the beef?
We could just add everyone with their catchphrases.
All the 80s catchphrases, yeah.
There you go. Out of control.
$5. So next time we're doing another one.
Yeah, we are $5.
We're all in on these $5. Yeah. We're jumping in doing a cannonball into a $5.
I don't know. It's like we held back on these for the longest time, and then it's like, why are we not talking about these movies?
It's like we're like the Oprah Winfrey Show. A $5 for you. A $5 for you. A $5 for you.
Oh, Oprah. Your $5.
So the reason we're doing another $5 next time is that Fathom Events is putting a classic back out in the theaters in mid-June. So if you're hearing this before June 14th, 2025, go look at your listings because Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is coming back to theaters as a Fathom event during the weekend of June 14th.
Yeah.
Another one we have never covered.
No, I think at one point for the 100th episode we had talked about, or maybe it was 200, we had talked about doing all three Raiders movies. going back, because we did talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark, but that was so long ago, and we did not give it its proper due. What is this? 1989.
1989.
I was working in Manhattan. I saw this opening weekend in Manhattan. Yeah, stood in line, bought the poster.
The big selling point on this one, there's a couple. Not only, of course, is it another indie movie, but you've got Sean Connery coming off of The Untouchables and an Oscar, no less, and River Phoenix.
Yeah. We got a little prequel history of how Indy became Andy.
No Shia LaBeouf.
Not a Shia to be found. We do get an Allison Duty, but that's. But yeah, this is Indy at his best.
Let it lie, but
let it lie. Again, too much money to be had.
Yeah.
Spielberg went to the well on this one, though. He was like, "Yeah, we'll go back again. We need to talk, Indiana." So there we go. We find out his real name. I'll happily go see this in the theater again. Yeah,
after a thuggy departure for Indiana, we're back to Nazis here.
I know. You know what? I just missed Temple of Doom when it first came out. I didn't see it in the theater. I read the Marvel comic long before I ever saw the movie. But it still holds up. That is actually my favorite of the three. Is it? Unbelievably. Because it's a nice departure from Raiders, which was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark, by the way. There was no Indiana Jones attached to it. It's all retro. That's no cookie. But there you go. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. That's no cookie. I'm excited. Let's go. I am as well. And on the big screen, no less. So yeah, this will be fun. Yeah. I got one shot. I think there's a 4:00 showing on Saturday, and that's it. I own this on Blu-ray. No, I do as well. I've got the box set. But you want to see it in a big theater. I do want to see it in a theater. I do. All right. Well, come watch it with us. Yes, please. Go to the theater. And thank you for listening. And then come back. Yes, always. We'll be right here. Until next time. Bye. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your podcasts on. Also, be sure to email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. You can also follow us on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads. Just go to tmiconfessionalspodcast.com. All of our links are there. And leave us a 5-star review. See you at the concession stand. Why does he need to call them? They know he's still there.